Previously on X-Men.
Alright guys, this is it's my review for X-Men Dark Phoenix. I'm gonna tell y'all I didn't have much hope for this movie. I am a huge, y'all know, I've talked about it. I am a huge X-Men fan. X-Men, if you don't know, I'm always a huge Marvel fan. X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man were the top comics. Those were the ones those were Marvel's flagship. Marvel had a rough time. They had to sell them off. Fox got X-Men, Fantastic Four, a bunch of other characters, Deadpool, all that. So Sony bought Spider-Man and all their characters. So that's why we're having the situation we're having. That's why I was so happy when Disney and Marvel got everything back, and they have everything except for Spider-Man, basically. But they have a deal for Spider-Man. And Sony is very happy with that deal. So, I've watched X-Men. I played all the games. X-Men, Marvel Rise of the Imperfects. That's not X-Men, but they're in there. X-Men Legends 2, Rise of the Apocalypse, one of my favorite games of all time. Also, that leads to why X-Men Legends 2, Rise of the Apocalypse, and X-Men from 1992, the animated series, is the reason why I did not like X-Men Apocalypse. The Apocalypse movie was terrible. I hated the acting was god-awful. The writing was awful. It was a terrible movie. The only two scenes I liked was when the Quicksilver scene, and then even though she didn't have much time, I was happy to see Jubilee in there. If you do not know, I told you, I've watched Spider-Man, I think 1994 Spider-Man, X-Men 1992 animated series. I've watched these series over and over and over. Not only when I was a kid on Saturday mornings, but I watched them over and over again. I love them. They're my favorites. The Apocalypse storyline, the Dark Phoenix storyline was done justice in the games. It was done justice in the animated series. The movies are great, but lately they haven't been as great. Apocalypse was really terrible. It was super low. I hated it so much. I had no faith for Dark Phoenix. My favorite X-Men, I'd have to tell you, is Rogue is probably my number one. Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and then we get into Magneto, Storm. Those are like my favorite ones, my top tiers. But definitely Rogue has always been my number one. Wolverine's good number two. Nightcrawler, definitely. X2, the beginning of X2 when he's in the White House, one of my favorite scenes. I still remember as a kid watching that, like, oh my God, I love Nightcrawler so much. But, so, I wanted to preface the video with this. So, Stanley, a lot of you don't know. A lot of people don't pay attention to X-Men. I don't know why, but X-Men was Stanley's answer to how, I'm going to say it this way, how stupid and senseless racism and bigotry was. The X-Men were created to show and to kind of showcase that and how dumb it was. That I didn't know that as a kid. I just knew I loved X-Men. I knew that these people were getting treated wrong. It was wrong. I didn't like it. I loved all the characters. There's so many X-Men. I loved it. I loved it more when I heard Stan Lee say that. He hated racism and bigotry so much that he created the X-Men. One of his literal top tier comics and series that people love, and a lot of people don't even know that that's why he made them. That's their whole purpose, for parallels and symbolism, for racism. Professor X is a symbol for Martin Luther King's ideologies and Malcolm X's Magneto ideologies. So a lot of people don't know that. Some people may realize it, but that's why X-Men is very important, on top of already being important to me, because I loved it when I was a kid. So X-Men Dark Phoenix, I got a present for you guys. I told y'all, some of y'all know I've talked about it before, but yes, I do have real Wolverine claws. I love Wolverine. I love Wolverine. Like I said, he's my number 2, probably behind Rogue. As you can hear, these are real. This isn't fake. Like, you can cut somebody with these. I have these. They're my favorites. I love them. My grandma keeps them at her house. I wanted to show y'all that I do have them. They're real. She keeps them for protection. She uses them. But they're mine. Like, that's how much of a fan I am. I have Wolverine claws. Put them down. X-Men Dark Phoenix, way better than I expected. You know the Dark Phoenix storyline. One thing I love about the movie, they ignored Apocalypse. They ignored the events of Apocalypse. That's why it started the way it is. Some people might be like, ew, this happened in Apocalypse. Why is this happening again in Dark Phoenix? Nobody cares. Apocalypse sucked. That movie was bad. Nobody cares. They ignored it. They needed to ignore it. X-Men Dark Phoenix is not great. It's not amazing. It is a good X-Men movie. It was worth watching for a long time X-Men fan. I loved it way. It was miles better than Apocalypse. It's decent. It's up there. It was worth watching for me. I've seen it twice. I personally, for somebody who doesn't even care about Jean Grey or the Dark Phoenix storyline like that, it was a decent movie. The movie, I can say, is carried by the soundtrack. The soundtrack by Hans Zimmer. He did the original score for Lion King, Gladiator, Man of Steel, which is another one of my favorite movies. This guy, Hans Zimmer, the top people is like Ludwig Göransson, Alan, I think Silvestri, I think Anthony Jeselnik, I think, Ramin Djawadi, and I said Ludwig already, right? Yeah. Those are like the top composers. I listen to a lot of instrumentals and soundtracks as well, so I'm big on those. The movie itself stars Storm. Storm is in it. Alexandra Shipp, she was Storm in Apocalypse. She did better in this movie than she did in Apocalypse. I like her in this movie. I liked her as Storm. Too bad it's the end of like 20 years and Marvel's getting the rights back. Well, not really too bad. I'm glad Marvel's getting the right back. Hopefully, Marvel can keep it as dark as Fox had it and put their amazingness and their amazing touch on it, and I would love it. That's one thing I always loved about Spider-Man and X-Men, was they always dealt with like adult themes, issues. Like, even when I was a kid, I understood, like, Spider-Man, he went to college, 2 jobs, 2 not good paying jobs, taking a bike, and then he had to be Spider-Man. Like, he had issues that he dealt with. Spider-Man is a very adult type of comic. He had to deal with a lot of stuff. X-Men deals with a lot of issues, especially like racism, and it parallels and shows so much stuff like death, resurrection, things like that. There's a lot of stuff in X-Men. That's why there's so many different timelines, so many different sagas, because there's so many characters and so many different things that happen to them. Dark Phoenix also stars Ty Sheridan. He was in, I think, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. I think he was also in Ready Player One, I think, as well. I always get him mixed up with that other guy. It may have been him in Ready Player One. But Ty Sheridan plays Cyclops. Jean Grey is played by Sansa Stark. There's one scene, I saw somebody make this joke. They were like, you know what the kids are calling you? They're calling you Phoenix. And somebody was like, they're calling you the Queen of the North, because it's Sansa Stark. You know that Sophie Turner is Sansa Stark. That's who she is. She did way better in this movie. I enjoyed her in this movie. We already know James McAvoy, Split, Glass, X-Men First Class. X-Men First Class is one of my favorite X-Men movies. It's in my top 5. Top 3, actually. I love the X-Men First Class. James McAvoy is greatest Professor X. Michael Fassbender is amazing as Magneto. He's in here. You know him. Man, I'm trying to remember. Make sure I get everybody. Nicholas Hoult. He was in Tolkien. He was great. He played Beast before. I loved him as Beast in this movie. I like him as Beast. I like the original Beast. I like the old X-Men movies, the original Jean Grey, everybody. Like, I loved all the people. The original Cyclops, who was played by, I think, James Marsden, but he's from Westworld now. And he was the original Cyclops. Like, those, I loved everybody that they picked, except for the newer people, as in Apocalypse, but they kind of improved in this movie, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I didn't despise them, though. The new Nightcrawler, Cody Smith McPhee, he's from Let Me In, one of my movies that I love as well. He was great as Nightcrawler in this movie. We have, I think her name, she plays Selene in the movie, and I think her name is like Coda. I'm gonna do her justice, but she's in some parts that I like as well. I'm still having issues with this iPhone, man. This is why I don't get iPhones, y'all. I'm terrible with iPhone XR, garbage. Not the phone, but me, I'm garbage with it, is what I'm saying. There's a lot of people in this dark community. This is 20 years. So, one thing I can tell you, a point I'm going to make. Like I said, the soundtrack kind of carries it, makes it better than it is. I can understand the flaws that people talk about, like the Jessica Chastain, I don't know if her character was just writ terrible. I think the script is not that great. The writing's not that great. But it's not Apocalypse levels of bad. It's a worthwhile movie. It's worth watching. Me personally, if I had to say my best X-Men movies, and you really have to watch these movies for yourself. Don't pay attention to critics. Pay attention to what you feel. Watch it for yourself. Make your own opinion. Me personally, X2 is one of my favorites. X-Men First Class, Logan, and then I love X-Men Last Stand. I actually enjoyed Last Stand a lot. A lot of the stuff they did, Professor X dying, was amazing. Juggernaut, Mystique sacrificing herself for Magneto. Like, I love that. Like, X-Men Last Stand was amazing to me. Not like the greatest movie ever, but I enjoyed it for what it was. They did a lot of stuff that I like to see in movies. I like those risks to be taken. Kind of like how Endgame is. Take those risks. Go ahead and do it. Do it. Kill people. Do that. This is X-Men. This is what I wanted Apocalypse to be. Kill them. Bring them back as the Horsemen. They didn't do that. They didn't do the X-Men Legends Rise of Apocalypse. Jennifer Lawrence is Mystique in this movie. I don't really like her as Mystique. I feel she's too Jennifer Lawrence-y. I love Jennifer Lawrence. Like, none of these people, probably Alexander should be the only one I really don't care too much for. But none of them I really don't have an issue with, except I love Jennifer Lawrence. I just don't like her as Mystique. Her as Mystique was not the best pick to me because she's too Jennifer Lawrence-y and not really Mystique. The original Mystique was way better than me. I like the way she looked way better, just as the character. But Jennifer Lawrence, I love Jennifer Lawrence. I like Hunger Games, all that stuff. I just don't care for her as Mystique. But X-Men Dark Phoenix, if you love X-Men like I do, you'll enjoy the movie. I'll tell you two things. I say it's a watch it. You definitely should see it. If you love X-Men, watch it. If you say you don't love X-Men, but you sat through Apocalypse, you can watch this movie. It's way better than Apocalypse. If you can sit through Apocalypse, you can watch Dark Phoenix. Definitely see it. Go see it. Check it out. Maybe I'll bring out more of my Wolverine claws when the MCU finally gets... Maybe I'll put on a whole Wolverine suit or something. I don't know. The OG uniform, the one right here on the shirt. You see it. The one, where is he at? Right there. Yeah. Brown and yellow. But definitely check out Dark Phoenix. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you're not a love X-Men or you couldn't sit through Apocalypse, you might not be able to like it. But I say it's a watch it. Go see it. Check it out.